Oklahoma becomes a state, and along with it, land grants are handed out to descendants of Creek freedmen. Among them is a young girl named Sarah Rector. At first, her land seems like a nightmare, tornadoes tearing through, snakes slithering, and her father urging her to just sell it. But one day something beneath the surface catches Sarah's eye. Something that would change her life and the story of her land forever. She heard oil flowing underground, like a rushing river. Although her parents doubted her, Sarah remained convinced, believing that God had given her the ability to hear it and the land for a purpose. Determined, she and her father, Joe, began visiting oil companies in Muskogee, where Joe faced discrimination and was repeatedly turned away. At one point, Joe approached Pan Oklahoma Petroleum but was mistaken for the trash collector. Meanwhile, Sarah entered a whites-only cafe where a kind man offered her lemonade. The waitress quickly ushered her outside after picking up her cup with a towel. Outside, Joe was frustrated, insisting he wasn't there for trash but to discuss drilling for oil on his daughter's land. Just then, Sarah burst in, confidently declaring that she had 160 acres with oil beneath it and even pointed it out on a map. Big Jim, an oil company representative, agreed to check the land but warned it would be a long shot requiring significant investment and deep drilling. Sarah, wise beyond her years, suggested they lease the land first. Impressed, Big Jim presented a contract offering 50 cents per acre for 6 months, but Sarah knew the standard rate was $1 and demanded a 1/8 royalty. Big Jim countered with 8 points if they struck oil. Sarah carefully reviewed the contract and explained the terms to Joe. For 3 months the drilling continued, but ultimately Big Jim reported they had come up dry. Disheartened, Sarah felt defeated, but soon after, a man arrived at their home, wanting to buy the land. He wanted to negotiate with Joe, asking Sarah to step away. As she walked off, she insisted, "It's my land," and listened intently. The man offered Joe $2 per acre, but Joe countered that it was worth $3. When the man accused him of being difficult, Joe stood firm, explaining that he needed to make a profit for his daughter. The man then raised his offer to $6, which Joe considered fair but wanted to consult Sarah first. Frustrated, the buyer left, and Sarah realized they must have discovered something valuable and wanted the land for themselves. Quickly, Sarah's mother, Rose, retrieved the land deed, knowing its significance. The family rushed to hide it as they spotted a car approaching. Armed men entered their home, searching for the deed. Sarah's dog, Blue, barked and ran toward them but was shot. The intruders left, leaving Sarah terrified. Feeling the weight of the deed as a curse, Sarah worried for her family's safety. But Rose reminded her that God had given them the land for a reason. The next day, Sarah set out to find Blue, but all she found was his collar. During her search, she stumbled upon an oil camp, setting the stage for a new chapter in her journey. She confidently walked among the tough crowd and soon encountered Bert again, the man from the cafe. "We met at the cafe," Sarah said, recalling his habit of circling names in the newspaper. Bert's partner, Mace, nodded, acknowledging that must have been him. Bert was on a quest for oil, branding himself as a finder and wildcatter. Sarah shared, "There's oil beneath my land. Pan Oki leased it and tried to deceive me, claiming it was dry. They even sent a con artist to pressure me into selling for just $6 an acre." Now, Sarah needed a partner to help extract the oil. However, Bert responded, "Good luck with that, honeybee." Anger surged in Sarah as she retorted, "I'm offering you a business opportunity, not a child's game." Bert approached her again, inquiring about her land. Although he lacked equipment, Sarah reassured him, "No problem. Pan Oki left all their gear on my land." With that, Bert grabbed Mace, eager to join Sarah. "Before we head out, let's finalize our terms," Sarah insisted. They agreed on a 50-50 split and sealed it with a handshake. Bert's excitement soared when he saw the top-notch equipment. "This is excellent ground, classic anticline dome," he exclaimed. He sought and received Sarah's parents' blessing to begin drilling. Pan Oki had already dug 1,000 feet deep before abandoning the site, which they renamed Sarah's Oil. During a conversation, Bert shared, "Mace and I began with gold and silver, and now we're in oil. We've experienced it all. I once made $70,000 on a gusher, only to lose it all on the next dry hole. We believe there's oil here, the question is, how much?" Just then, Big Jim appeared. Mace rushed inside to grab a gun. "This is my land," Big Jim declared, giving them 20 minutes to leave. He had the lease but had tampered with the date. Sarah shot back, that's as dishonest as kids cheating in school. Bert aimed his gun at Big Jim, who insulted him as a con artist. Big Jim then offered Sarah $20 an acre, but she firmly replied, "I'm not selling." Big Jim's arrival opened Bert's eyes to the vast oil potential in the area, sparking a fierce determination to fight for it. One day, while drilling, their machine malfunctioned. Bert urged Mace to halt operations, fearing an explosion. Mace inspected the machinery and found it stuck nearly 1,500 feet deep, and the situation felt dire. "Let's abandon the well," Bert suggested. But Mace proposed using dynamite to clear the loose rock. Bert hesitated, believing it was too dangerous and would require too much explosive. Then Sarah chimed in, "No wonder you keep hitting dry holes, you give up too easily." Mace suggested a wall hook, but that method was only partly reliable and hard to source, plus they'd need more equipment, which meant more expense. Sarah reminded them, "Everything in life has value. What do we have that's valuable?" Inspired by her words, Bert took Sarah and a mud sample to a geologist for testing. Scraping together $10 from his pockets, they submitted the sample and waited for the results. While waiting, Bert met a woman who had a connection to her deceased husband, who had planned to invest in oil leases for her. He charmed her, and she invited him to dinner, revealing a past flirtation. Later, the geologist delivered disappointing news: the oil lay deeper and was contaminated with saltwater. Feeling disheartened, Bert sensed something was off. As the geologist prepared to leave, Bert confronted him, realizing he was taking the sample to Pan-o-Kee for a payoff. Bert mentioned an old man in a nearby town, using a term that angered Sarah. Recognizing his mistake, he quickly apologized. "That's not who I am," he insisted. Sarah pointed out, "The town ahead is Taft, my town." They sought out a local man without formal credentials but claimed to know more than any geologist. He charged just $5 for the test. While they waited, anticipation filled the air. Once the test concluded, the local geologist was ecstatic. "I've never seen anything like this. The density is alarming, with a gravity reading of 40 degrees, the lightest. This crude oil is incredibly pure, it could be the richest field in all of Oklahoma." Sarah's dreams of oil rushed back to life. Their well had become stuck, and they faced significant expenses to repair it. Mace suggested, "Should we consider robbing a bank?" The following day, Bert visited the bank to apply for a loan. He presented his sample, hoping to secure $2,000 for a wall hook. However, the bank deemed a loan for a clogged well too risky. As he exited, Bert noticed a group of women. He began chatting with them outside a cafe, inviting one after another inside. Sarah observed from a distance and decided to approach them confidently. "I'm Bert's business partner," she announced, presenting her case to the women. "We need equipment, and it's quite costly." She added, "Bert has been talking to another girl too. She seems nice, but I don't think he likes her as much as you." The waitress informed the marshal about the situation. As soon as Bert and Sarah spotted the marshal, they quickly stood up to leave. Bert then purchased explosives, but when the seller approached Sarah, Bert intervened, asserting, "She's with me." Just as the seller was about to make an inappropriate remark, Bert reacted and punched him. Upon returning home, the marshal delivered devastating news: a couple of children from the Creek Nation had been murdered in their sleep. He had come to warn other families. Inside the house, Sarah broke down in tears. Those children had been her classmates. Rose grew anxious, exclaiming, "My daughter isn't safe either." She turned to Bert, declaring, "My daughter is my everything. Nothing will happen to her." The next day, May confronted Bert, asking, "What did you offer those widows in exchange for their money?" "I bet it's more than you own. That kind of deal could land you in jail." Bert replied, "We needed the money and I got it. Now let's get to work." They restarted the engine, and a wave of relief washed over everyone as they watched everything come back to life. The challenges weren't over. The machine got stuck again just as several cars approached. Pan-o-Kee's legal counsel handed Sarah some papers, a legal filing demanding the return of all Pan-o-Kee's equipment and a claim on the oil. They accused Sarah of unlawfully evicting them based on the sublease she signed. Bert chuckled. "An 11-year-old girl threw you out." He warned the Pan-o-Kee crew that if they set foot on the land, they would face serious consequences. The council quietly offered Bert a generous deal, suggesting that this matter could drag on in court for years. Bert, however, dismissed the offer without a second thought, leading to a physical confrontation. He later sat in the car with Big Jim, who remarked, "What a wonderful business we're in. But what's that little girl going to do with all that money?" Local judges were frustrated with the challenges of dealing with an uneducated, underage population. The state insisted on white guardians, and Bert realized he needed to become Sarah's guardian to sell the land to Pan O'Kee. He demanded 15% in return, to which Big Jim reluctantly agreed, knowing the standard was 12.5%. Bert insisted that if he were to betray Sarah, it had to be worth his while. Bert then informed Sarah's family to grab their rifles and leave their home. Rose, filled with fear, said if they want the land, they can have it, only concerned for her daughter's safety. Bert told Mace about the Pan O'Kee deal, explaining they could secure 15%. He noted that Sarah's mom wanted out and that the well was compromised. "The best move is to let the big players come in and drill a new well," he said, but Mace hesitated to betray Sarah. Bert replied, "In this world, they won't let a girl of color hold on to such a valuable resource. I promise to make it right later." Meanwhile, when Sarah's family returned home, they found their beloved dog, Old Blue, alive and well. Joy filled the house. That night, Rose asked Sarah, "If I had asked you before, what would you give to have Old Blue back?" Sarah replied, "Everything." Rose asked if she still felt that way, believing it was a sign. The next day, Bert arrived to have Sarah sign the guardianship papers. "This makes you the boss of my life," she said. Bert reassured her, "I need you to trust me. I understand how the system works." As Sarah signed, she looked at her parents and asked Bert, "This is to protect me, right?" He affirmed, "Yes." Sarah signed, and a court hearing would follow to verify everything. She shook Bert's hand, just as she had before. Bert left, but Joe remained skeptical of him, questioning whether he could be trusted after a lifetime of chasing riches. Yet Sarah believed in Bert while her father did not. Sarah's mom firmly stated that she wouldn't accept such behavior at their kitchen table. While we can't see the true intentions of someone's heart, tomorrow they would step into that courtroom with their heads held high. This meant Sarah would have to speak before the judge. Rose reassured her, saying that God would provide the right words. Outside the courthouse, a strong community of black supporters gathered to stand by Sarah and challenge the unjust white guardian law. Many guardians had been wrongfully seizing oil-rich lands from their rightful owners, and now everyone learned that oil lay beneath Sarah's property. When Sarah arrived at the courthouse, a woman named Miss Barnard stepped forward to assist her, but the judge asked her to take a seat. The judge confirmed the details with Sarah. She inquired why her parents couldn't represent her. "The state granted me this land because of my ancestors," she explained. "When it was just weeds and lizards, it was mine. Now that oil was discovered, everyone thinks it's theirs, and I need a white guardian." Sarah simply wanted to keep what was rightfully hers. "Isn't that what the law is meant to protect?" she asked. The support for Sarah grew within the courtroom. Ultimately, the judge adjourned the hearing and awarded guardianship to Bert. As they exited, Joe requested a copy of the papers from Bert. Miss Barnard would manage everything for them. Bert handed over the documents and said to Sarah, "I just need you to trust me." He then headed straight to Big Jim, insisting on 15 points, not just for her land, but for every parcel surrounding it. Bert understood that Sarah's land held significant value and Big Jim was acquiring adjacent parcels to exploit the oil. Big Jim reluctantly accepted Bert's terms. Bert added, "And I want her safety guaranteed." Sarah observed Bert entering the Pan O'Kee office and approached him, saying, "You promised to do right by me." Bert replied, "I am. I have a plan. The oil industry is fierce. You'll receive your share." But Sarah emphasized, "This isn't just about me. It's about your integrity, Mr. Bert Smith." Mace dropped Sarah's family off at home. On his return, he noticed a suspicious vehicle, Pan O'Kee's men. They confronted him with guns drawn. Mace pulled out his weapon, but the odds were against him, and they killed him. Hearing the gunfire, Rose urged her children to flee toward Creek Nation. Pan O'Kee's men approached their home. Rose grabbed a knife while Joe readied his gun. Shortly after, Bert saw them leaving. Miss Barnard appeared, bringing a journalist named Mr. Farr to meet Sarah. Bert requested to accompany them. Upon arrival, Joe emerged with his gun, explaining that Panoki's men had threatened Sarah, forcing him to fire back. Bert searched for Mace and discovered his lifeless body. Miss Barnard warned, "Sarah is next." They maintain a legal claim to the land based on what was signed over, and they want to eliminate her to prevent anyone like me from going back to court. Bert proposed, "What if we return to the judge, cancel the guardianship, and give it to you?" But to do that, they first needed to find Sarah. Meanwhile, Sarah, her little brother, and their dog waited at South Stream, following their mother's guidance. Panoki's men entered Creek territory, inquiring about a colored girl. "We just want the girl," they insisted, but received no answers and moved on. All the while, Sarah prayed, "Help me, Jesus." Suddenly, she spotted a car approaching, only to realize it was Panoki's thugs. She urged her brother to run as the thugs opened fire. Just then, the tribal police arrived, followed closely by Sarah's family. Rose reunited with her children, only for Sarah to learn of Mace's tragic fate. Bert sincerely apologized to her for everything that had transpired. Meanwhile, Barnard approached the judge to discuss the young lady's guardianship, which required re-evaluation. America watched closely as her life hung in the balance. The judge recognized an error in the documents. Contrary to what was stated, Bert hailed from Texas, not Oklahoma. His claims of Oklahoma residency lacked proof, rendering the guardianship invalid. Sarah appointed Miss Barnard as her new guardian, and the judge planned to inform Panoki, advising them to stay alert. Bert devised a plan to thwart Panoki, bringing along dynamite. When Rose inquired about its purpose, Bert explained they would bury it about 1,000 feet underground. He believed the well would either collapse or reveal the treasures they sought. The following morning, Big Jim arrived at Sarah's property with a white flag, seeking dialogue. Bert allowed him inside while Rose discreetly hid her children. Big Jim threatened war, but Joe simply urged him to leave. Unbeknownst to them, Big Jim concealed a machine gun in his car. Amid the tension, Sarah detonated the dynamite in the well, causing the ground to tremble and oil to erupt. Filled with joy, she sprinted towards the gushing oil. Big Jim claimed it as his, drawing his gun, but Bert intervened, revealing he had planted dynamite on Big Jim's surrounding wells as well. Just as Big Jim aimed at Sarah, Joe shot the gun from his hand, leading to Big Jim's arrest by the police. Sarah danced in delight, witnessing her dream of oil come true. Later, a celebration ensued, but it was interrupted by the widow from whom Bert had borrowed money. Bert realized he had to leave. When Sarah asked where he was going, he explained that the widow owned 250% of his share. Sarah insisted they were partners and offered to help, but Bert declined her financial assistance. He felt grateful for the lessons Sarah had taught him about his soul, something no one else had explored. He declared himself a treasure hunter, believing other treasures awaited him. Despite her protests, he bid her farewell and departed. Afterward, Sarah embarked on a new journey, starting by purchasing the cafe and opening it for everyone to enjoy. If you enjoyed this breakdown, smash that like button and share it with a friend. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a recap.